Hello everyone, this is Marco and welcome back to my channel. I have only just recently figured out how to do the replacement tail for the Ankylosaurus. And that made me want to fix up my Hammond Collection ANKYLOSAURUS figure. So this is what I'll be showing you in this video. I'll be replacing the tail, I'll be fixing the bottom jaw, and adding some paint apps that were missing from the figure. This is one of the earlier releases by Mattel for the Hammond Collection, and I've been wanting to do this for quite a while but never really figured out how to do the tail properly. But before we get to that, why does it need a replacement tail? The Jurassic Park 3 Ankylosaurus has got a different tail club and overall a different design from the one in Jurassic World. Admittedly, there isn't much reference material for the Jurassic Park 3 Ankylosaurus, and Mattel just kind of assumed that it had a very similar, if not the same, tail club as the Jurassic World one. What's funny to me though is that in their Beyond the Gates video, they mentioned that the Jurassic Park 3 Ankylosaurus has got a very different morphology to the Jurassic World one, which is very true. The body shape and all the spikes, and the length of the tail club and the head are all very different on the Jurassic Park 3 version compared to the Jurassic World one. But they still gave it a Jurassic World Ankylosaurus tail club. And they just slightly changed the head sculpt. Now I can understand why they did that, as again there isn't much reference material for the Jurassic Park 3 Ankylosaurus, which is fine because the body is close enough anyway. But that tail club is very different. I wasn't really intending to do a video on this, so I just designed a tail club during the night when I couldn't sleep. So I didn't really record any footage of me sculpting it, but here is the final result. This is the 3D model on my iPad, the one that I sculpted. I did do a few versions, but I'll talk about that soon. Also, I can't guarantee that my sculpt is 100% accurate to the film, as there's very, very little reference material. The one in the style guide, the side view is the actual render from the film, but the top view is from the Jurassic World Evolution model. That's kind of the closest thing we have, so I based it on that. That being said, it is a lot closer to what we see in the film than what Mattel did originally. I didn't even record myself paint the replacement part, unfortunately. It's just after that I realized, you know what, let's do a video on how to fix the bottom jaw. Because I thought there's no real point to me designing a whole new replacement head when it's good enough. It's just that bottom jaw isn't good at all. So I thought I'd just show you how to fix that if you want to. I should mention that this fix isn't ideal still, as the pivot point of the jaw should be a lot further back. But again, I think this fix is better than sculpting a whole new head. So let's get into it. As mentioned earlier, this is the 3D model I sculpted on Nomad Sculpt. Right, so this is going to be the final version. Well, this is the prototype of the final version. I did 3 different tests. This is what it originally looked like. And this was the first one. It was a tiny bit too thin, and the ball joint thing there wasn't tight enough. So I tightened it up a bit with this. Made it a bit thicker. It's a bit too thick and it was still a bit too loose, so I found a nice little middle ground there, so it's not as thick as the last one, but now it's perfect. It articulates absolutely perfectly, so get all those nice poses like that. And this is that same test but painted up, color matched and assembled. And there we go. I color matched the bottom beige color and sort of faded it into that top brown that we see there. And I've also added a bit of an orangey earthy wash, just like the rest of the body right there, for example. These replacement tails will be available from Siratech at some point soon, so keep an eye out for them. In the meantime, I'll keep an eye out too, and I'll put a link in the description as soon as they're available. So let's talk about that bottom jaw. As you can see, it's very lazily articulated and it juts out quite a bit, even when closed. And there's that cut there that is always showing. So the idea is to glue the sides shut with some super glue, as I'm showing you here right now, and then we'll cut the centerpiece with a knife. It's quite hard to explain how I'm fixing it right now, but you'll see what I mean once it's finished. You can use this as a tutorial later on if you like, if you want to fix yours like mine too. I'm just making sure I'm putting the super glue only on the outside parts of the bottom jaw piece. I'm not putting it all the way through because we need that center part of that jaw hinge to not be glued. We need that to be quite free. That hinge mechanism will be exactly the same. We're just closing up those gaps on the sides just to make it look a bit prettier. Once I glued one side, I moved to the other. And as you can see, I'm using a toothpick to apply some glue right on the very edge, making sure the glue doesn't go all the way down at all. I'm using this spray activator to make it cure a bit quicker, solidifying the glue a bit faster. Once those sides are glued, we can cut the centerpiece out like this. That will free up that center part and it will articulate, cutting straight down from the edge of the mouth or where the beak begins, like so, very gently and very cautiously. And as you can see, the centerpiece of the mouth articulates fine while the sides are nicely glued down. Now all we have to do is just shave off the excess and make it look a bit less round and more flush with the rest of the head sculpt. And there we go, we don't have that ugly seam on the sides, and the jaw still articulates the same. Mattel could have done this from the start. We can't be sure as to why they didn't. It could be laziness, or they could have just added that articulation as a last thing. As we know, they didn't articulate the Triceratops jaw, so probably someone higher up just ordered them to add articulated jaws right at the last second. Talking about laziness though, some spikes on the back are not painted. For a collector's figure is just not acceptable in my opinion. So I mixed some paint from scratch and color matched it with the rest of the spikes. And then I colored in all of the unpainted spikes. The larger spikes on the side of the body are rubbery and pigmented in a different color than the spikes on the tail, so I just color matched those too. Then I decided to paint the claws in too. To me, the figure just felt a little bit unfinished, so by adding the claw paint, it really does make a bit of a difference to me. When I finished painting the claws, I realized that the grey I used was a little bit too light in color, so I darkened it and matched it with the color of the claws from other Hammond Collection figures, just to make things a bit more consistent and tie everything in a little bit better. Lastly, I coated the nails with some nice glossy lacquer. And here is the finished result. I think it looks a little bit better. It certainly feels a bit more complete, a bit more finished with that extra paint. And not having those horrible cuts in the bottom jaw really does make it look a bit better too. Again, it's not the ideal fix, but it does make it look a lot better. And having that new tail club really makes it resemble the animal from the Jurassic Park 3 film a bit closer. And there's that extra paint on the tail spikes too. I think that really ties everything together. One thing I'd like to mention is at the beginning of the Hammond Collection line, Mattel seemed to undersize the animals a lot, especially the herbivores. The Triceratops is tiny, and this Ankylosaur, although it is a little bit bigger than the one in the main line, should be a lot bigger too. The Ankylosaurus in the film is about 8.5 meters long, and the Therizinosaurus is about 9-ish. So it should be a little bit closer in length to the Hammond Collection Therizinosaurus. Not quite, as it is half a meter shorter. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and thanks so much for watching.
I would like to give a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. Seriously guys, your support really does mean the world to me, as it helps me do what I love for you. You help me buy materials, and most of all, you give me a helping hand with improving the quality of the content of my videos. Even if it's just a small donation, every little helps.